Welcome to Mobile Musings. I'm Sierra Modro. Today we're talking location services. Your iPad and iPhone both have built-in GPS. Now that enables a lot of really fun and nice features in the iPhone, but it also is a great big battery draw. It's really wise to look at the location services that you have enabled on your phone and figure out which services you really want and which ones would be better left disabled. Location services uses the built-in GPS that's in your phone. Now this makes sense for apps like the mapping applications. It's got to know where you are and where you're trying to go to be able to give you those turn-by-turn directions that are so handy. On the other hand, there are also applications that are using your location services that you may not be aware of that are happening behind the scenes. For instance, if you're using the Starbucks app and you ask it to find the nearest stores, it's using the location-based services for that particular function. Or IMDb when you're trying to figure out what movies are playing this weekend. It uses the location services to find out where the nearest theaters are. Lots of these can be really handy functions, but every time you use them, it's using the radios in your GPS. As I've mentioned before, the radios in a cell phone and in the iPad are some of the biggest battery draws that you have on your device, right after the screen. And being able to control when you're actually allowing those services to be turned on is a very powerful way to control how fast your battery life is draining. Now, I'm not a particular proponent of turning off location services. Some people like to do that, but I actually understand the value of having them turned on as well. I mean, I really want my Google Maps to be giving me turn-by-turn directions when I'm going to someplace else. So I know why it's valuable, but lots of other apps don't need it. Let's have a quick look at where the location services are and how to turn them off and on for individual applications. Here we are in Settings, Privacy. The Settings Privacy zone is where you're going to find location-based services. You can see right now that I have location services turned on. If you go into location services, you may be very surprised about the long list of apps that you have that are actually using location services. As I said, I generally leave it turned on overall and then turn it off on an application by application basis. So some of these make sense. Google Maps definitely needs to have my location if I'm going to be able to use it effectively. But for instance, LinkedIn, that doesn't really need to know exactly what my location is. Applications like Penultimate, which I've covered before, I leave the location services on for that because it allows me to track where I took certain notes, and that can actually be an interesting feature for me. But to turn it on and off, all you have to do is just slide that little button. One thing worth noting at the bottom of the list is the instructions that it gives you about the icons. When you're actually using location services, you will see an arrow show up in the top bar. And that arrow will tell you that location services are currently being used. In this list, you'll also see gray arrows beside applications that have recently used your location. The location services are really easy to enable and disable on a case-by-case basis. There are even apps that I have where I leave it off most of the time, but if it's a particular situation where I want to use it, I'll just turn it on for a few minutes and then turn it off again. It's that quick and that simple to do. So reap the benefits of location-based services, but also know when to turn it off to improve your overall battery life.